Welcome back to Talanoa with Tupe. We're here with Dahlia Malaeulu. So, Dahlia, the article that you wrote about your cultural identity resonated with a lot of people, so much so that you wrote another book, Teine Samoa. So can you tell us about that project which you released during Samoan Language Week?
Yeah, absolutely. So Teine Samoa, as you said, was inspired by an article that I wrote for I Tangata last year. And I just had this urge, really, to actually get the story out of my system. And I kind of thought, from the feedback that I received from the article, that there was more to it. And I created this story. I always call it a space, this writing space. And I literally started writing about 4 junior high school students and their own cultural identity journeys. And then it tied into their own parents. So you could make the links and the connections with why we are the way we are. Then I took another layer and added the education element with our educators and teachers and their journeys and the impact that that has in developing their understanding. So that book was written across a week. It was a bit of a flurry. And with lockdown, you couldn't produce or you couldn't publish anything. But I then discovered the world of e-publishing, and that was encouraged, thankfully, by a lovely friend, Lani Wentyoung, who is very much a do-it-yourself kind of person, and she was right, you can do it yourself. So that book is a bit of a labour of love, obviously coming from my own personal experiences and cultural identity, but it was also mixed in with all the Talanoa and conversations I'd had professionally as an educator with students and educators and leaders. So that's how it all came about.
And can you tell us about the Teine Samoa project?
Yes, so after the ebook was published, so that was May this year for Samoan Language Week, in June I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about all the feedback. I also started thinking about the positive feedback that I was receiving. I also started thinking about the Talanoa that I had over years and how useful the story would actually be as a resource, not necessarily just a story to pick up and read and put down. So the Teine Samoa project came about because I wanted it to be a space where real life stories from Teine Samoa could be shared, because I thought, like myself, and being lucky and blessed to have heard these stories in real lifetime, in person, and I thought, imagine if other people could have this experience, and that maybe they could too be moved and motivated like I was to develop the cultural understanding, as well as the confidence needed, really, to help our Te Métis to succeed as who they are. So the project's been amazing. I approached 14 contributing authors. They have 7 students, 7 educators, all ranging from intermediate age student, that is a 13-year-old who is our youngest author, all the way to a university lecturer. I've also got an educator who is in her 50s, and their stories are just amazing because there's some true themes that have been highlighted from it around identity, the dual identity crisis and challenges our children and our adults even have, racism, unconscious bias that our Te Métis as well as educators face, just identity, belonging, stereotypes. And it's just amazing that over the gap, the age gap of an intermediate child to an educated woman who has been a deputy principal over 30 years experience is actually experiencing the same thing. So it kind of points out to what has actually changed for our people within the education system and with us living in New Zealand and the challenges that we face.
I just think, I mean, I read your book and, you know, I devoured it. And I really wish that the book had been around when I was a teenager, because that, for me, took a long time to figure that part of my life out. And I just think, it's going to help so many people.
And that's exactly why I wrote it. I too the same. I wish I had a book like that. that talked about gōnga'is, that talked about when the whaiwhao came over, that had snippets of our language in it, so that it could be a jumping point for me, to know that, oh wow, someone else shares my life and my struggles, and that's what I've received in terms of the feedback from the book, from the original ebook, was almost like, wow, this is my story.
Yes.
Everyone, I've had people who have emailed me their own personal life stories that could literally be a book. The details may be different, but the story really is our story of what happens to a lot of us when we come here. And it's really important for us to also understand that one idea of what Samoan is very different.
Right?
Yeah. So you can tell through, and I wanted to do that on purpose with the characters.
Yes.
With the 4 junior high school students. We've got our Afakasi character. We've got Whaiwhao's daughter, who knows everything and anything inside out. You've got the creative who also wants to, that is the Whaiwhao's daughter, the creative. And you've also got the good girl, the good Teine Samoa, who's doing anything and everything to please and meet expectations. And then finally, the Samoan, the real Samoan from real Samoa character. And it's really interesting that people don't understand that they've actually, everyone has their own cultural baggage that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's all underneath this title of Samoan.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to highlight and illustrate, and as well as the parents' stories to reiterate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a tendency maybe to paint all Pasifika with the same brush, whereas actually there's a lot of diversity within our group, and even within, Samoans, there's a lot of diversity there as well.
Absolutely.